In this episode, we're going to be installing the landing gear on the Black Horse model's Gilmore Red Lion 92-inch wingspan, and it's actually a Wedell-Williams Model 44 racer. And if you'd like to see little tidbits of history on the real plane, I urge you to check out the other episodes of this build series on my YouTube channel. So the landing gear, we're going to attach to the landing gear all the fairings, how all of that attaches, the fiberglass parts, what the manual says, and how I ended up doing it. Also the wheel and the axle, and I especially like how they did the axle on this plane, so stick around and see how that goes together. We're also going to do the tail wheel, and the tail wheel is a little bit different than the real airplane, and that's totally understandable, but I like to point those things out because I was there and I took some cool pictures of it and just want to let you guys know about it. And finally, an extra surprise at the end of this video, I went ahead and ordered the extra set of wheel pants from Motion RC. It's one of my habits of a plane that I'm really excited about. I just feel better with an extra set of wheel pants laying around. But I got that. I'm going to unbox it at the end of this video. There's a surprise in that box that was not on the product page. So it's a good surprise. So stick around to see everything that's included when you buy an extra set of wheel pants for this Gilmore Red Lion from Motion RC. So let's go ahead, head back to the Crawford Auto Aviation Museum, get some nice close-up views of the real NR61Y's landing gear, and then we'll zoom into the bench and we'll get to work. Some nice close-up shots of the real NR61Y's wheel pants. Look how beautiful those look. All right, first step is to open up the covering on the bottom of the fuselage. You can see over on the left, I've already done that side to kind of get an idea where that square is, but use your fingers to, you'll see the square opening where there's no wood or support underneath. Find that square and score down the middle and open up the covering. We'll speed this up, but the one thing I wanted to warn you with, you'll see I cut out a square and then I cut relief cuts in the corners, and my idea was to fold a little bit, you know, a quarter of an inch of the covering down and then iron it down like you've seen me do before. However, we've talked about it, covering is a little bit different, and my iron immediately melted this immediately. So the temperature for this covering is a lot lower than normal covering. So because of that, I just trimmed it out, and you'll see here that it's trimmed really nicely and we should be good. Here is the landing gear. And if you look closely, that inner hole looks a little bit blacker than the other. And that's because I needed to use a Dremel to open up just slightly. For some reason, it wasn't aligning exactly perfect. I can get either one of those bolts in, but not both. So I just opened it up a little bit, took me 30 seconds, and now we're good. So don't be afraid if you need to do that. Just get a Dremel and open it up just a little bit. I'm going to go back, take this all apart at the end, so I will eventually put blue Loctite on those bolts. Here's the fairing, and if you look, there's an arrow pointing towards the front of the plane. And the beautiful thing about these fairings is that it's not epoxied on, it's not wood screws, it's actually a blind nut and a bolt to secure it, and that is really wonderful. So we'll be able to put some Loctite on this, but it also has a spring washer, a lock washer underneath. But again, I'm putting this all on to get the sizing and drill all the holes. I'm going to take it all apart and then do the CA in the wood holes and then blue Loctite on all the metal bolts. This little piece is really cool. It covers up the landing gear, but you don't need to worry about gluing it because the shoulder piece and the wheel pant is going to sandwich it there. So it press fits in there pretty nicely, and you don't have to worry about it. So you'll be able to pull that off if you need to take the fairing off at a later date. So this shoulder fairing, look for that longer piece, that longer curved piece that goes towards the front on the bottom, and it just slides over the landing gear like this. Now, the manual says to epoxy both this and the wheel pant, but in efforts to be able to take everything apart and replace parts, I'm going to drill and secure these with number 2 3/8 button head socket drive screws that I get from RTL Fasteners. They're one of the smallest servo mounting screws they offer, and there'll be a link to those down in the description. But also, because I'm drilling through fiberglass, I got my nice snap-on drill bits to make sure those holes were really nice and clean. So you can see these little number 2 servo mounting screws. We will later take this all apart again, put a few drops of CA into these holes because that fairing is wood and it drills into that very nicely. So we'll get these attached, and this is exactly how we will attach the wheel pant. We're not going to show that in this video, but we showed it here, and it's the same thing. Here's the wheel pants. It slides over the top, over the landing gear, and over the fairing, nice and snug. Now, one of my pants, I could slide down pretty far and get a lot of access to the end of the wheel pant. This one, you can tell it's pretty snug, and in fact, I forced it down a little bit too much and I actually ripped some of the covering on the back of the fairing. You can't see in the shot, so be careful. Here's the wheel and the axle. So it goes bolt, large washer, the wheel, large washer, plastic spacer, and then a nut that I replaced with a nylock nut. And then after that nut is a small washer, and then we'll go ahead and put this on the axle. After you put that bolt through the axle, you may or may not need to play a little game of operation to put another small washer on the backside. And then again, I replaced the nut with another nylock nut. But once you get the position of that first nut, then you can really tighten this axle down and have a nice free-flowing wheel. Now it's a little bit up to you to see how you're going to position the wheel pant. You can have it low, raise it up a little bit so you can clear some of the grass, make sure you have the angle you want. But let's look. Here's the real NR61Y, and they did not have tail wheels. They had a little tail skid. And in fact, to move around, they had these little dollies that a tractor or a small vehicle would pull it around. So again, the real planes did not have tail wheels, and that's totally fine. I'm not gonna take a chance with just having a tail skid on this really nice big plane, but just wanted to let you guys know a little bit different from the scale. Let's get the tail wheel installed. There are 2 holes on the bottom of the fuse near the rear. You can use your finger and kind of rub it and you'll feel where those 2 holes are. So my hole punch that I use all the time, find those 2 holes, punch the holes, and we're good to go. And that's how the tail wheel will attach. Now, I don't plan on taking the tail wheel off, so let's go ahead and put some blue Loctite on these bolts, even though there is a lock washer underneath the bolt, but it doesn't hurt to put a drop of blue Loctite on there. So we'll tighten this down, and we'll be good to go with the tail wheel, and we'll then be able to pull this off the stand, set it upright, and get to see it with the wheel pants on so we can adjust the wheel pants and secure them in the exact height and angle that we're looking for. So here she is as she stands now, and I haven't secured the wheel pants yet, and they're a little high, but I just wanted to show you that I put the tail wheel on because I wanted to sit it down and I wanted to get the angle of the wheel pants right, and I wanted to get them the same height. So I'm not going to show you securing them, but it's basically the same as those shoulder pieces. My pants are a little bit high right now. I lowered them just a little bit, but remember, I know this is a scale model, but the size of grass doesn't change. So I'm trying to keep these as long as possible. So here is the special surprise. I went ahead and ordered the extra set of wheel pants from Motion RC, and this is how they come. So first off, you can see this thing is packaged crazy. It was actually hard to get that inner box out of the outer box. So here it is, BHM 1003 117 scale detail parts. I originally thought this was just the wheel pants, but it comes with some other pieces, as you can see in the product video. But look, There's a dummy radial engine in there. I was not expecting that. And that's actually really cool because I plan to cut mine up, paint it, and do some things. And it's always nice to have a spare one around. So these things, there's the dummy radial engine, another set of fairings, and then here is another set of cowl blisters if you want to use those. And then finally, you see in the bag is the wheel pants. Also a set of nice decals extra for the wheel pants. That's always something kind of funny. If the wheel pants have decals and you order another set, a lot of times they don't come with decals. So that's really cool on Black Horse. So we have the dummy radial engine, the fairings, the decals, the wheel pants themselves, the extra set of cowl blisters, and there's a little package connected there to the wheel pants, and that's those little covers that go over the aileron push rods on the wings. So guys, I think this is I was really surprised to get that extra dummy radial. It's going to let me experiment a little bit more with the one that came with my plane. So guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in a few days where we start to put together the tail. So we'll glue the elevator and the rudder, and we'll go from there. So guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.